Well, welcome to the 7 o'clock talk. And tonight we're going to talk about energy and mitochondria, among other things. Waiting for the lovely Jessica to join me. And so, I, and so energy and mitochondria.
Get back, Libby. Libby always
Child.
has to be a part of it.
I know. Back it up. Look. Hey,
There's you, Libby.
Libby.
Say hi.
Anyway, so we're going to talk about a very important, and it's called an organelle, but it's the mitochondria. And the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It produces all of our energy. And can you explain what the mitochondria is and what its history is?
It's made out of DNA from a plant from a long time ago.
Nate, when I was doing some research online, they showed basically invagination. So I'm going to show you a picture of a mitochondria.
And I think the mitochondria is like one of the heaviest things in the cell because it's so dense because it's so convoluted.
It has all of these.
Surface area, if you were to slice it all out and put it all out there, the surface area is amazing.
Oh yeah, the cristae. So this is the outer membrane, and then they have what is called an inner membrane.
Hey,
Hi,
Miss
Kathy.
Kathy.
That inner membrane here is very important because it protects the cristae. And this cristae, as to Jessica's point, these go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And this increases the surface area of the inner membrane. And as you increase that inner membranous surface area, you can produce a lot more energy. And it's very, very important to have that. Plus, this is everything to you. This outside, this is the part of the membrane that is that bilipid layer. And remember when we talked last week about immune defense, and we talked about the cell and how important the actual composition of the cell was, because it absolutely is what helps keep the inside and the outside separated, and that's what causes the charge, the charge differential, which allows us to produce energy. And this little dude here, all of these things combined in our body weighs about 2 to 3 pounds. And do you know what are their fuel sources? What do we like to have? We like to have ketones and
I don't know why ATP but I think that's what they make.
ATP is what they make. So you have they have two fuel sources. So they're kind of like a hybrid. They can run off of glucose, which is a dirty fuel for them, and they can work off of ketones, which is a clean fuel for them. And this could have, just going into its fuel sources, just going into how you treat it, how you help it, those all are 8-hour seminars in and of themselves. So if we go to the next slide and we start to look at what are the benefits of enhanced mitochondrial function. And so right now in the world of oxidative stress, and we start to look at vascular issues, we're really talking about right now, we're talking about these things for, I'm going to pull back over here. We're really talking about what's really important right now is this stuff that's coming up of post-COVID syndrome. And we are making a lot of associations, especially Jessica has been working with people with IVs and pulling blood and giving blood. And what's been your experience recently with that? She'll be right here. She's also making dinner. She's multitasking. But Here she is. And she has a hypothesis.
Well, I mean, I created my own hypothesis, but I don't know if that's true or not. But so I do the IVs. I got my trusty sidekick here. I think I realize that now every time I sit down, she sits down because that's just what she does.
She follows.
Everybody needs a loyal dog.
Yep.
Yes. Anyway, so I do IVs, and then I've noticed that some people are just impossible to draw or to give it an IV tube. And my IVs run off of gravity. I've thought about this a lot. So my IVs run off of gravity. So they kind of have to have a vein that is free flowing. And so I went to do this lady. I stuck her 10 times. I've never stuck anybody 10 times besides one other person trying to get blood. And I was in the vein. I got great flashback and I could feel it flutter. So that's usually indicative of anybody that draws blood or does IVs it's a valve in there. But she wasn't hydrated, one.
On the first day.
So she leaves and she drinks and drinks. She hadn't drank anything in like 12 hours. And her skin literally tinted.
Another nurse.
Yeah. Because who has time to actually take care of yourself?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why she was coming for her IV. But I stuck her again today when she's well hydrated. And same issue. So I even said then, I said, I almost feel like her veins were inflamed because I could feel the valves. You couldn't push, you couldn't pull. But her hands, she's like, do my hand. And I don't like to do hands because they hurt and they're fragile. And they just blew. They were just so fragile. Anyway, she was only 53. And she had COVID multiple times.
Oh, nurse.
But she also said that what she called was a COVID rash, and it's always in her ACs, which is your elbow on the opposite
and a cubital fossa.
Yeah. Anyway, she didn't have a rash there, but that's what she noticed. And so I've had a couple other patients. They also had COVID. So I think that's what the correlation was. I'm just going to decide if I stick you the second time and I don't get it, we're just done. But
so upon doing research, what we have noticed, what did COVID start out? We all thought it was a
respiratory thing. But then from my experience, just my personal experience, the COVID patients would come in and each COVID patient was drastically different. Their symptoms presented differently. This hour, they may have had these symptoms. This hour, they may have had these symptoms. They were ever changing. You could never create like a protocol because it was always changing. So
the dog's the weirdest.
We progressed through in my groups and just my friends, it was what we kind of made up was inflammation. However inflammation presented in your body. So if you had back pain, that's where it was. If you had lung issues, that's where it presented. If you had belly issues, then they all had some things in common, mainly diabetes and hypertension, but otherwise everybody presented differently.
And if you think about it, the lungs are highly vascularized, meaning there is a lot of blood flow that goes there. And that's where you have this oxygen transport, and it goes from the lungs it attaches to the heme of the blood and then gets transferred away. And lots of people, they thought it was a lung issue because they couldn't breathe. And so now what's starting to show up in the research is it's not so much the lung as it's the blood that's getting thick. And then that blood is not allowing for the oxygen transport. So when that happens, what happens is you start to clot, and then things start to basically clot inside. And then you have all kinds of different failures. And then that blood goes to other areas in the body, and wherever it decides to settle is where you have the problem. And how this relates to mitochondria and energy is your mitochondria depend on oxygen. they are an aerobic burner. And so they have to have oxygen to produce ATP. And so fatigue, tiredness, we had a good friend that presented with some atypical things. If you want to go into that, the atypical symptoms
Of
of stroke and things of that nature,
so
because
specifically in women.
well, you can do women or men,
Well, I mean,
but
the atypical symptoms are always going to be a woman because everything is based on a man.
the medical system is sexist.
It kind
It
of
really is, actually.
Well, I mean, it kind of is. Like for heart attacks, women don't present with the usually
Left arm
with the
pain.
left crushing arm jaw pain. They don't have that elephant on my chest. They may, but it's always further on. So women present usually with a heart attack with indigestion, or what they call indigestion, or burning pain, or stabbing pain between their shoulder blades, which is why most women die of heart attacks, because the symptoms are missed because they are medicated for indigestion when actually they're having a heart attack.
Gotcha.
So most men present with the typical symptoms because
That's what they've done the
That's what-
research on.
yeah, and so that it's caught early and it's treated early, but women mostly die because their symptoms go unnoticed. And there's atypical stroke things for women, specifically tiredness, nausea, vomiting, blurred vision, dizziness, low blood sugars. I'm missing one. There's 6 of them.
I got an education in this week.
I'm missing one.
Low blood sugar, vomiting.
Slurred speech is not one of them, but it is. But that's a typical, not an atypical.
And so if
Headache. Did I say headache? Headache.
no, you did not say
Nausea,
it.
vomiting, dizziness, sweating. So if you have symptoms of that and you are also at a high risk, which people that are obese have diabetes, obesity, diabetes,
High estrogens.
high fat, high cholesterol, women and men who are also taking hormone replacements. What's the other one?
I always miss one. So
Anyway,
when we're looking at this and we're thinking about the mitochondria, and we go back over to the mitochondria, benefits of enhanced mitochondrial function is it helps with reactive oxygen species and oxidative stress. So basically, you have antioxidants and you have the energy to run the antioxidant pathways. Metabolic function goes up, energy level goes up, and I mean, you guys can read these. So if your mitochondria are damaged, what happens to you then? So then we start to look at dysfunction and disease. And if your mitochondria don't work, let's say you're, do you know what the poison is that affects the mitochondria? It stops oxphos. Is that cyanide? Or what's the one that like almost immediately drops the person because it, so it's okay. So cyanide stops the oxphos in the mitochondria. And since it stops production of energy, that's why they just drop dead. And so you can start to see chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, cardiovascular disease, stroke, mood disorders, bipolar, multiple chemical sensitivities, premature aging, cognitive decline, medicine, insulin, cancer, and neurodegenerative disorders. And so it has links. Mitochondrial function has links to every portion of the body because it produces all of your energy. And it's very important to take care of this. And things that actually harm the mitochondria, trans fats, high sugars, mitochondria can become damaged. And when mitochondria become damaged, they need to die. And if you have a high caloric diet, like too high, overabundance, if you never go into ketosis or you don't have ketones present, then basically you can never signal that mitochondria to die, and it will start to be, if you Google zombie cells and stuff like that, these things hang out. So it's very, very important. Ignore this. Oh, did it work, Susan? I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to put it up there because some people are saying we need to get notifications. And so I don't know if that works or not. But with that all being said, this is just another portion of how this all ties together. And the mitochondria produce the energy. So if you don't have the mitochondria that are healthy, then you can't produce the energy to run the parietal cells that give you all of your assimilation. So you're not going to absorb the nutrients. You're also not going to move things through the body like they need to be moved. And then if that's not working, then you're going to start to run into the defense and repair node. The defense and repair node which is your immunity. Your immunity is going to start to shut down, and then that affects everything. And the funny thing about this is in functional medicine, they argue a lot. Well, they have a friendly debate. And the friendly debate is, what's more important, the mitochondrial node or the hormone node? And the thing is they just are so intertwined that they bounce off of each other. The hormones, if they go astray, then you start to oxidize the lipid layer outside on the mitochondria. And if you do that, then the mitochondria becomes damaged. So it's very important to have the lipids, and good lipids. You've got to have good omega-3s. You've got to have good monounsaturated fats. These are the things that are very, very, very important. So I think with that, I will kind of wrap this up, because this is another one that's like the defense and repair node. It's so large, it's better just to immerse yourself in it. And we have food plans that basically start with the mitochondria and just concentrate on the mitochondria. But I think the food plan we're going to go with next is we're going to do experiments with another patient, and we are going on the Ornish diet.
Because we never let our friends do anything by themselves.
And I've never experienced the Ornish diet. I do have high cholesterol, so
and
I'm going to try to knock it out.
That as healthcare workers, I can talk to that. We don't do a very good job of educating people, even on their own conditions or the warning signs or the signs and symptoms. And so now I'm just going to get on another soapbox, and we're just going to do better ourselves. And we're going to start trying to educate on what I would assume would be just like basic information. But apparently it's not basic information, because we aren't sharing it.
Well,
and by sharing it, we can save lives.
And so the reason why we are doing the Ornish diet, that is the only diet that has been actually shown in studies to reduce plaquing. And if we can start to reduce plaquing, that means that we don't have oxidized lipids running through our bloodstreams, and we aren't prone to stroke and cardiovascular issues. So with that being said, we love you all. Thank you.
Yeah.
And have a great night. And Libby's attacking the boy.